I am not sure what happened. I went upstairs to go make food. Where's my PNG? Why was it hidden? There we go. I don't know how or why. I went to go make me a sandwich, and there is legitimately no mayo in my house. And I don't know how. Because I swear to God, I thought I used mayo the other day, and I put it back in the fridge, and it is not there. I legit took all that time looking for mayo from a sandwich that I can't eat now. I'm glad I did make the sandwich, because I was double checking. But I wanted a snack before I started stream. You know, because I'm gonna be here for a while. I know that. Also, hi Nibble. Congrats on first. I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of hoping someone else comes very quickly and takes second, so Crow can be upset again. Does that mean it has to be mean a bit, right? You can if you want. Which is this one? I think this is the mountains one. Yeah. I don't think Crow's gonna show up anytime soon, though. Getting nice and comfy. Okay. Nice. Coffee. I got my drink. I was gonna make hot chocolate, but I thought better of it because hot chocolate does make me really sleepy now. So, no hot chocolate. As much as I want something. I can make tea. But anyway, no two summer evenings in Sunset Bird looked quite the same. Not downtown, not at the beaches, not on a street, where the only change that anybody had seen in years was the arrival of a new tourist. Though you hadn't seen any stars in the sky, you knew the day was almost over from the sound of chirping crickets. Shadows of swaying branches were stretching across the grass. Well, probably. You hadn't gotten the chance to experience the sunset before you got pulled into whatever this was, while trying to clarify your plans for tomorrow with Baxter. He paced back and forth between a pair of half-packed or half-unpacked, depending on how someone saw it, suitcases. Piles of folded clothes were abandoned on the bed. Thank you for the blue voice and congrats on second. My wish has come true. Crow gets denied. Hold on. There we go. Are you good, voice? Okay. I'm sorry. Ah. Yep. Oops. Laid out across the top half of the bed. You're my friend. Do I care? You're my friend. Baxter didn't mind where you were, happy to work around you, or, more probably, he just didn't notice. Instead, he accidentally threw a pair of rolled up socks in your face earlier. He apologized profusely for it. This wasn't the first time that you'd been in the condo. Baxter invited you over before, but so far it had only been the first floor. You're in the master bedroom now. As a kid, the condo was the equivalent of Fort Knox. No way in, and if someone unwanted did sneak inside, there's probably no way out. It just wasn't worth the risk. Being in that room was closer to a fantasy than it was reality. As much as someone could dream about being in a rental bedroom anyway. And yet here you were, all thanks to Baxter, who didn't seem to realize the gravity of the situation. One of the doors to the armoire, his words for it, was ajar. Hangers rattled from the excessive force Baxter used to move a few of his jackets. Honestly, you weren't sure why he packed them all. It never got cold enough anywhere in Southern California to wear outerwear during the winter, never mind the summer. And yet he still brought them, no matter how much he was convinced otherwise. It'll be cooler in temperature, but just barely. While we won't be seeing any snow, I would suggest you bring a jacket and a sturdy pair of shoes. Pulled another zipper one suitcase, peering into its contents, but not deeply investigating for long before he moved on to the next thing. A drawer filled with nothing that he abruptly shut. Thank you for the hydrate. He wanted to pass the only part of his wardrobe that remained neat and in place. Formal clothes. The suit he wore to the interactive play was perfectly arranged for use at any minute, in case there was another regal emergency. Baxter hesitated before leaving that be. His finger grazed the top of the comforter as he passed. Beating, if you would. He moved aside as he wove through an increasingly intricate disaster area to look for something else that he hadn't made clear to you. Seeing that up until now, Baxter had been living out of his suitcases, which wouldn't ordinarily strike you as a problem until he said he needed at least one of them to be empty. Only so that he could relocate his things from one to another. He was certain that he'd need no more than an afternoon to pack before you arrived. But there are some things in this world that not even the likes of Baxter Ward could handle with grace and composure. Mornings were one, personal organization was another. I must apologize. He stopped in place, the corners of his eyes softening as he turned to you, brows knit together, even as he busied his hands with folding a pair of pants, only to immediately throw it into the suitcase. Realize this can't be terribly entertaining. Don't worry about it. He didn't need to apologize. There wasn't any problem waiting. Besides, it was more amusing than he gave it credit for. That is one of your charm points. In for a penny, in for a pound. He chuckled, shaking his head with a quiet amusement. Content with the reply, he went back to unconsciously constructing a labyrinth of his possessions. Wonder how he'd fit everything into two suitcases to begin with. This entire situation made about as much sense as anything else around him, which let's just say that maybe a quarter of it followed any linear train of thought. The rest left much to be desired. Baxter had a tendency to work through things in a sort of circuitous sense. His own logic that he used to explain things as a matter of fact. So much so that you couldn't help but just take him on his word, even if the details only made themselves clearer later. What was happening now was even more convoluted than normal. The first point, Baxter very suddenly announced he was going on a vacation away from his vacation. 3-day and 2-night jaunt to a mountain lodge a handful of hours away by his judgment. Plans were already underway as soon as he figured out where he was staying in California. Made sense if he was trying to get more bang for his buck for his experience in the area, but that wasn't the main reason. Second point, it was a family tradition happening without his family. He and his parents always went to the Rockies in the summer, so this time he was staying in California. Baxter decided to make a trip out to the mountains here regardless, and that was also fine, except he wasn't prepared for the trip at all. He would have thought that someone else planned when and where it happened with the way he was rushing around the condo trying to pack and trying to remember what to pack. And point three, the most peculiar, he rented a second room in the lodge, despite coming here alone, and to visit no one in particular. He did have some acquaintances in the state, but none of them were people he wanted to take a trip with. Audaciously, after explaining the situation, he asked you to take up the free room without missing a beat. You, a person who dated him for all half a second. A couple's trip was the kind of thing that was more appropriate for months down the line, something to cement a relationship as steady. But apparently being together at all was plenty enough for Baxter. The weekend was free, and your moms were able to accept the idea of you going. Going up to the mountains to stay in a lodge was a cool opportunity. It wasn't the kind of trip you and your family took. Now that you'd taken many trips and your breaks got busier, and Liz moved away, so the prospect of traveling anywhere farther than the city was exciting. Even if the entire situation was pretty absurd. Negotiating with your moms went better than expected. They hadn't vetoed it immediately because they were an adult. They weren't excited about the idea. It was one thing if you were going on a trip with the usual cast of suspects, but Baxter, a guy you met basically the other day. He was polite and well spoken. However, your moms didn't know his parents, a rule that you thought was obsolete once you were in high school, but not so when it came to overnight trips. They eventually gave their blessing when Liz took your side in the discussion. She was convinced by the fact that you'd be staying in an entirely separate room from them. The second room just seemed like a Baxter thing. Baxter stalled over the suitcase he was bringing on the trip, brushed back his hair into place, turning to his side to search for another misplaced necessity. Thought there was a possibility I might make friends during my stay there. Here. There's no guarantee, of course. I wouldn't hope to make any presumptions there. Shh, phone. Excuse me. You're being very rude. Thank you. To make any presumptions there. His gaze wandered, lips tightening at the corners of his mouth. Involuntarily, his contemplative expression faltered as he looked up from the suitcase to you. But I thought that if I did, then would the trip not be made exceptionally better with company? If not, then so be it. Acquiring a room is the difficult part. Reservation needs to be made weeks in advance, whereas canceling one only needs a notice of 48 hours or more. Second off the bell. No questions asked. Realistically, I would only need 2 days to know if I was going alone or with company. That was the case with you, was it not? You're certainly an optimistic. Better an optimist than a pessimist, I'd say. Baxter went back to packing. Those suitcases looked to be middling in quantities more now than they'd been earlier in the evening. Glanced over his shoulder at you. A black shirt folded in his hands as neatly as any star display you'd seen in your life. This might not be an ideal time to ask, but that's why we're speaking about the trip. I did want to ask as to where your personal boundaries lie, Beanie. I am deeply appreciative of your mother's approval, but what I am comfortable with may not mirror what they are comfortable with. You'll need to say so if you're in agreement with their preference, but if not, Patrick's tendency to act a lot older than he actually was. It was times like this, when he smirked entirely too mischievously, that you were reminded he was barely any older than you. I may forget by the time we get there. Conspiratorially, looks were exchanged from across the room as he smiled crookedly. Baxter was a real one when it came down to it. Mom's hoping Liz could come along too, so I wouldn't be alone. He didn't look surprised by the suggestion, apparently aware of how it must have and certainly did come off to your parents to invite their youngest on an overnight trip. But Sugar wasn't going out of state, and I'm not still a kid. I just had to call Liz every day. Call. She won't let me get away with texting. If I don't, she says she'll call the hotel instead, and the police, and anyone with a phone number to report that Pepe the Pew was on the loose. Baxter snorted, not laughed. Owen snorted. He covered his mouth, quickly avoiding your gaze as he had to resist the urge to laugh harder. He didn't know whether he'd seen the original cartoons or one of the more recent uses of the character, but he definitely got the reference. I was prepared to give your sister my thanks for convincing your mothers, but it appears everyone has notes on my manner of dress these days. Yeah, Mom joked that these old-fashioned black and white striped jumpsuits inmates wore would match your hair. You know if Liz did call the police on you. How clever. Is the black and white tie out of vogue, Beanie? You aren't wearing a tie. Trying to suppress the grin was nigh impossible, especially after reliving the conversation about his vague resemblance to an aggressively forward skunk and a criminal. Baxter chuckled as he put away another pair of pants, the number of which long lost count of as he went back and forth. Your family is quite charming, and I do agree. That is only fair. Try to keep in touch with them while you're away. Just you care for my fate enough to do that much. For sure, I don't want them to worry. Actually, wait. I want to back up. Can keep in touch with your parents. It is my intention, though I couldn't promise it would be every day. The itinerary for the trip was straightforward enough that Baxter didn't need to look at his laptop to read the details. He had to his work on the suitcases. Check-in wasn't until 4 p.m. at the earliest, and the drive was so significant that she'd be going for as long as he'd fear. So the plan was to leave at noon, find dinner somewhere in the area when he got there, and then check into the lodge in the evening. The first day would be getting there. The second would be exploring the area in earnest, and the third would be taking the morning easy before checking out at noon to head back home. No home for you, vacation home for Baxter. It was perfectly reasonable, according to him. He wouldn't be overextending himself to prepare on either of the big driving days, and you'd have a good amount of time in the lodge. Besides, if you drove that much early in the morning, you were pretty confident you wouldn't make it back in one piece. Upon further inspection of Baxter's own supplies, there are a few things left to pack and a few more things he needed to buy. I don't suppose we'll need any formal wear, really. But on the off chance I have dinner at a restaurant that necessitated that, I think I'll be okay with that. But I'll see you tomorrow, Baxter. I gotta pack too. Good luck. Sorry to make your way out of the master bedroom. His head snapped up. Of course. I'll see you tomorrow, Beanie. Have a good evening. Well, Ronnie came uneventfully, save the final warning from your family about how they had deployed a full-fledged investigation team the minute that something seemed off. You agreed that you would call daily, but it didn't do much to dissuade the endless worrying. Liz didn't pull any punches either, least of all after your family helped you load your things into the back of Baxter's car. Mom Liz pulled you into a hug as Mom shut the trunk with a click of a finality before she joined in on the squeeze. Don't forget that I'm watching him, Beanie. I'll come get you if you need me to. Just say the word. Doesn't matter what, okay? I know. Fairly meant well, but it wasn't as if you could forget after the 900th time that they reminded you to call and check in with them. Liz snickered as the three of them continued to hold you in a crushing hug. Well, if you know, then don't be surprised by what happens when you don't. Can't believe I'm going to get hunted for sport. She just beamed cheekily in reply, elbowing you in the ribs. Right, I trust Beanie to do her job, but Baxter, you'll be careful our child, won't you? You can see what their faces looked like because of the way that they held you. Henry could hear the apprehension in Baxter's tense laugh. Of course, you have my words, ma'ams. Perfectly gentlemanly response from him as always. As you are freed, Baxter made his way to the passenger side. He opened the door for you with a sweep of his arm. Bye! Mom Liz waved you off, and you slid inside the car, shutting the door behind you. As soon as the seatbelts clicked, the engine roared to life. You reversed out of the driveway and rumbled away from your neighborhood to the freeway. The familiar sights of Sunset Bird eventually gave way to Prism Vista City, then to the open space between here and there. Couldn't smell the salt in the air anymore, and for a moment felt odd to remember that there weren't beaches everywhere that you went, even in the same state. The radio set to classical music, gave a nice backtrack to Baxter's storytelling of other trips he'd taken with his parents up to the Rocky Mountains. Those memories give an idea of what to expect when you arrived at the cabin. Even though he glazed over some of the details, he even mentioned odder experiences. One of which included getting chased across the river by what he and his family thought was a bear, but turned out to be a particularly chubby dog who wanted to be friends. The ride was as smooth as it could be, except for the occasional congestion of traffic. That was always inedible this time of year. Baxter wasn't the only tourist. Eventually, the massive freeways came down to 2 lanes as the elevation grew steeper and steeper. Roads cut through canyons, giving a scenic view. You still texted your friends and family between conversations and sightseeing, so you lost signal. By the time you hit your first official checkpoint, it was late in the day. You stopped at a roadside diner for a bite to eat before finishing the last leg of the trip. You offered to drive, but Baxter waved it off. It was already enough that you came at all. Making conversation with you also made it less of a double task, so he didn't mind. Maybe it was better that way. Since Baxter was renting it, if anything did happen, it'd complicate matters if he wasn't driving. After the short final stretch, the car rolled to a stop at the front of a massive large hotel. It's how whatever you had when you stepped out of the vehicle. Baxter handed the keys to the attending valet. The lodge was somehow both rustic and fancy at the same time. For an oversized wooden cabin, the doors had big, elaborate I had to sneeze. It's coming. I can feel it. But it's like right there. I feel it and I hate that. I hate that I feel it. That's not helping. Voice. Oh my god. Give me one moment. I'll go blow my nose. Maybe that'll help. Okay. I feel better now that I sneezed and I cleared my throat. I'm not gonna lie, I'm getting snackish. And I want food. But the food that I want requires stuff that I don't have apparently. Don't. I want a sandwich. I want a bologna sandwich. Thing is that I put mayo on my bologna sandwich, you know? And guess what? We don't have mayo. And I thought we did, but we don't. I really don't know what happened to the mayo. But if I couldn't have that, I'd swear, I'd take anything right now. What time is it? I could order something. Benny doesn't like to order stuff. Mm, yes, I'm snackish. Benny's not debating with herself. uh, Let me see how much it would be to order something. Like, what? I don't even know what I want. So leopard, rot hand. Is that how you say it? Rot? Rot. It's a. I don't know. Rod handles that you're sure must have cost a pretty penny. This word rod. WROUGHT. Can y'all see this? Oh yeah, you can see it. Y'all can see it. Yeah, I said it right? Okay. So yeah, must have cost a pretty penny. Here, so we have arrived. Thing is I know if I order anything, Kenzie's gonna get upset when she comes home and sees it. Because she's... Actually, wait. Did I do it right? Yeah. It's gonna be more expensive though, because I gotta... I didn't mean to screenshot my fucking phone screen. Something looks good. Appears we have arrived. Baxter rounded his side of the car with bags in hand, smiling comfortably as he stood there empty-handed and staring at the building. Really thought we were making a pit stop. Oh, then you'll be shocked at the actual hotel. The steps are paved in gold. Are you serious? I am not. You both carried your things into the lobby. You hadn't brought enough with you that you needed to make a second trip. Don't mind me. I'm now looking at Chinese food. Mm. Yes, voice, you are a bad influence. Ooh. Holy crap. I don't know what I get. I really don't know. Voice is a bad influence, everyone. Hi, Shadow. Thank you for the hydrate. You know what? Look at that. With that. I am hungry and I don't have what I need to make what I want, so I am ordering Chinese. Because that is what you do, apparently. Mm. Don't know. That feels a little icky. Mm. I feel like if I order that, I shouldn't get the other thing. Pumpkin spice boba tea. But I also don't really like boba tea, so that might just be a me thing. I should probably go ask Nana Beans if she wants anything, but Nana Beans is gonna say no. Because Nana Beans is already upset because she's gained weight since she moved in with us. So. Also, Voice, don't let Mama Beans hear you say that. I think she actually likes pumpkin spice. Oh, trust me, we have. Oh, and my phone has froze. And my phone is freezing. Why is it freezing? Hmm. Give me a moment. I gotta actually make a call. Do y'all want me to turn the voice thing on while I make this call? So that it actually continues on? They don't just wanna. Sure.
Self-voicing enabled. And, after all that consternation in his bedroom, Baxter had managed to shave auto-forward. And,
I should also hit
after
that.
all that consternation in his
I
bedroom,
know this all by
Baxter had
heart.
managed to shave everything he
I
needed
still
down
read
to
it
one
too, so
bag
I
and
know
suitcase.
what's going on. Okay, I'll be right back.
Auto forward. And, the lobby was as big as the front of the building suggested. The light piano music tinkled in the background. An untraditional chandelier hung from the ceiling, sunlight shining through glass doors and reflecting on the carefully cut stonework. A fireplace burned in the far end of the lobby for whom you could only presume to be guests, but despite all the chairs and couches available for them, there was scarcely a soul.
I'm going to murder Peaches. I still have to call Mama Beans. Give me one moment.
It wasn't cozy. Not in the way that you'd expected it to be, given Baxter only described it as a mountain lodge. It was big and impressive, and even the stairwell seemed more fitting for a medieval castle than a homey cabin in the woods. To one side, the front desk was occupied by staff who were busy with helping with a large party. Baxter, we may be waiting a while. Why don't we set these down? He tugged at the strap of the crossbody bag he had over his shoulder and lifted the suitcase in his hand, gesturing for you to follow to the nearest open seating area, which was all of them. Footsteps echoed in the cavernous room and, when your bags hit the ground, the sound of that did too. Baxter opted to set his bags in one of the chairs instead of sitting, he'd been stuck in the car for so long. He didn't make a point of stretching his legs, though. Ostensibly, because it would have looked overly casual for a man such as him. Baxter, so, now that you've gotten a look, what is your opinion on our temporary abode? Honestly, I feel it sure isn't summer anymore, you joked. Beanie, it feels more like fall or winter. Not that we ever get either in Southern California.
Alright, Mama Beans is gonna call me back because she's currently doing something. So you guys have me for right now.
Self-voicing disabled.
It feels more like fall or winter now that we ever get either in Southern California. It does give that distinct cool weather impression, doesn't it? He turned his attention to the front desk. Though the situation hadn't improved at all, there were no signs of it clearing up now or in the near future. Penny, would you mind if I made a phone call? Mama Beans.
Self-voicing enabled. Baxter, I am considering making the obligatory phone call to my mother. Baxter, I do not often keep my parents appraised of my day-to-day life. But I do believe they will be glad to know I arrived at this secondary vacation. His gaze dropped to the floor as his hand idly sneaked into his pocket to fish out his phone. His formerly polite smile became crooked. Baxter, I am not so bad a son that I cannot grant them that. Beanie, yeah. Don't mind me. Baxter, thank you. It won't be more than a few minutes. Baxter, and I'll have a chance to finally mention the lovely individual accompanying me. His teasing wasn't something to be missed. But it warmed your heart to know that Baxter considered your relationship meaningful enough to be mentioned even in passing to his parents. Officially withdrawing his phone, Baxter promptly brought up his contacts and made the call. A hand rested on his hip while the other held the device to his ear. His head craned back toward the high ceiling as he awaited the dialed tone before a voice, too soft for you to hear but loud enough for you to register, greeted Baxter. Baxter, hello, mother. It's nice to speak with you. We've arrived at the hotel, the drive went well. He glanced over his shoulder at you before lightly pressing his index finger to his lips, as if to hush you before you could think of saying something. You couldn't help but wonder if she caught onto the we, considering Baxter came to the state alone in the first place.
Alright. Alrighty. I am back. I am here. No need for that.
Self-voicing disabled.
Hi, Risa. Yeah, I don't know what sleep is. But I have food being delivered now. So I had to call Mom and Beans because I was curious about what we were going to do for dinner. Well, what she was going to do, because this is going to be my dinner, possibly. And she was like, "Well, I thought about ordering pizza." I was like, "Oh wow." And she's like, "But I really wanted it to get there before Nana goes to work." She goes, "Can you try and do something for that?" I was like, she's like, "Can you put in an order for it? Just so she can eat a slice, before she leaves for work." I was like, "Yeah, okay, I can do that." So yeah. So now I just gotta wait for my food to get here. And I will, eat and speak. Can't help but wonder if she caught on to the we, considering Baxter came to the state alone in the first place. But yes, I have Beanie with me, my neighbor here. Of course, that is the greatest understatement of our relationship. She is quite special. Tell your mama said hi. His soft brown eyes lit up with a new warmth. Having expected you to take interest, Beanie says hello, mother. Not as she said something in response to him, however, his attention didn't move from you. As the conversation continued on her end, he lightly covered his phone with his hand. She says hello to Beanie. He smirked while his mother continued on in his silence. You weren't honestly sure what he was listening enough to have caught what she said. This was the closest approximation you'd ever gotten to the vague concept that was Baxter's parents. And it was such a small thing, watching as he spoke to one of them over the phone. It felt so radically different than it did with your other friends. You knew Kira. I still don't know how it is. Kira, and Mr. Holden, just like you knew Derek, Randy, and Terry's parents. All you'd heard about Baxter's parents, other than they were educated and old-fashioned, was that they didn't mind sending Baxter off to Sunset Bird for the summer. They wouldn't see him this season, and so you wouldn't see them. You had to wonder if someday you'd get the chance to meet them or speak to them directly. It didn't seem like a priority for Baxter. You're only dating for a little while, though, so maybe it was enough to just let them know that you existed in the first place. After another few hmms and yeses, Baxter's attention shifted to the front desk, which was slowly being vacated by the previous group. "Oh, Mother, this was lovely, but I do have to take my leave. Take care." You too. And with only a brief goodbye, he hung up and pocketed his phone. He turned towards you, picking up his bag and suitcase. "Shall we go and check in?" "Yeah." You trailed after him with your own luggage. The hotel receptionist smiled from behind a wide counter, her eyes somewhat weary for the day's work. You could relate to the exhaustion of dealing with a large mass of needy people and sent a silent wish that the rest of her day would be uneventful. "Good evening." The receptionist nodded, offering her own greeting and reply before asking if you were both checking in. "Exactly, and I would appreciate your assistance in doing so. The reservation should be for 2 rooms under Baxter Ward." Handing over his driver's license and credit card, the receptionist made quick work of their computer system and slid 2 pairs of plastic cards through a machine. "You're going to be in room 194, and Baxter's going to have the room next to you, 193. She picked up a map and drew a few arrows and lines. You're directed to take a left and head up the elevator to take the stairs to the second floor. With keys and map handed off, you and Baxter departed from the front desk. So, did you want to take the elevator or stairs? Realized Baxter did immediately follow you. Turned back to him as he caught up, gesturing for you to wait, took out one of his key cards and offered it to you. "Elevator. Here. It may not be necessary, but I would be happy to let you have it in case." "Sure, thanks. I'll take it." Took out your own. Baxter gratefully took your card in hand, pleased to have your good faith in the matter. The executive decision was made to take the elevator up to the next floor. Given all the bags, truthfully, with only a night's worth of clothes and supplies, they weren't that heavy. What was more, it was only a floor up, but they had installed an elevator for a reason, hadn't they? Be ashamed not to put their hard work to use. The halls of the hotel were wide. It was easy enough for 2 people to pass through beside each other. Leo and Bexar had sidestepped to make room for others occasionally. As you approached the end of the path where your rooms sat beside one another, Bexar drew his keycard and held it against the digital clock with fluid practice motion. Would it be right if we were to meet later this evening? It was a long drive, and I at least am in no rush to hurry off to the next activity. He had your hand to dispel any concern, both real and imagined. Sure, that's fine. I'll see you soon. Excellent. Take care, neighbor. He winked, laughing as he disappeared inside his room, and shut the door with a click. Tapping your card against the lock, he followed suit. In comparison to the hotel, foyer, the room was cozier. Not by much, but it was much less grand in scale. One wall was laid precisely with wooden planks. At the center of the room, the headboard of the single king-sized bed was situated by some non-descriptive painting. Hi, parts! It didn't seem cramped, in part because of glass doors that led out onto a balcony, and because of the nearby windows, which meant more light came into the room. It was bright even without the lamps on. Shh, phone. Breeze of the quiet evening up in the mountains, the branches waved to say hello. Setting down your stuff, you started unpacking toiletries and clothes before searching for a plug at the nightstand for your phone charger. Momo's barking. Give me a moment. Alright. Sitting down your step, you start unpacking toiletries and clothes before searching for a plug at the nightstand for your phone charger. Whoops. As you unpacked and survey, Sunrise slipped further out of the room. It occurred to you that you also owe a call to your loved ones. Any further delay would have led to officers bursting down the door, and it was hand-carved mahogany. Maybe. It didn't take more than a couple clicks. Their contacts pull up Liz's number. She'd been one of the last people you were texting on your phone. On your way up before the signal cut out in the first place. Phone rang for a second before your sister's voice came through. The other line, there's an exaggeration in her tone, a sense of suspicion. Beanie, this better be you and not some impersonator. I'm Monty Ward, if that is in fact your real name. Duck uses what I get. Yes, absolutely. And since the actual Beanie would complain about it, you're real. The bit of French there does have me skeptical, though. That sounds like Baxter to me. Laughter bubbled up to the surface, with Liz joining in on her end. That was exactly what I wanted you to think. No more questions, Your Honor. There is no way of knowing for sure, but you're pretty confident she was rolling her eyes. You want to go outside? Yeah, you want to go outside? Go on, go outside. Hi, ma'am, you want to go outside too? Everyone wanted to go outside. Okay. Like, okay. I'll take my leave now. Why do you hate Microsoft? I mean, it's understandable. But there's no way of knowing for sure, but you're pretty confident she was rolling her eyes. I'm not buying that you suddenly had the capacity for three-dimensional chess. Isn't 3D chess normal chess? Yeah, that's definitely you. Moving on, I'm glad you got there safe and sound enough that you're keeping up with me. So let him know about the Baxter guy. He's too formal and stiff for someone younger than me. But I guess he got you there in one piece. How's the lodge? The beach seems like a million miles away. It feels like I stepped out of the wardrobe into a grand new world, but there's no magic. Well, do you like it? It's comfortable. Your sister listened with the intensity of someone still handling an interrogation. That's what we'll do. Just make sure to have some fun for the rest of us, alright? Take pictures. Mom's already started asking why you haven't sent any. They want to see the inside of a car? That's what I said. Yeah? I'm sorry, Nibble. Really? This is just mean. Is it? Oh my god. Fucking legs hurt now. Hold on. I can't fucking open the door. The fucking cat's in the way. And thank you for that hydrate. Oh my fucking god. I'm dying. I legs are ready to give out. I got no. Sunday. Sunday. Hey, Sunday, Sunday. My god, my freaking legs. Give me a moment. Yeah. Your cat. Your cat. Stood in front of the back door so I couldn't let the dogs in. And she was waiting for me to open it. That's the thing. She was waiting there for me to open it. And I'm thinking, I'm not an idiot, kitty. I'm not. I'm not gonna get a chance. Yeah, I have food. My legs hurt like a motherfucker now, too. I deserve this food for the amount of shit that I just did. Yeah, I deserve this. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm dying now. Awesome, right? That's why I said. The conversation trailed on longer. Liz weighing in on speakerphone with what had been going on at home since you left. She mentioned that Co stopped by at some point to drop something off from his dad and told her to tell you that he said hi. Eventually, Liz tapered off, and at the mention of her own sleepiness, she helpfully reminded you to go and get some rest, for adding that you need to call her again tomorrow. But was promptly tossed aside in favor of preparing for the night. I got some sweet and sour pork. Mm-hmm. Hot. Preparing for the night. Then gentle knock came at your door, Baxter presumably. Pressed it correctly as he was the only person standing there in the doorway once you opened it. Hi, come in. And as a treat, I got me some Crepon songs. Despite this entire whole thing being a treat for me. Bowing his head as he stepped inside, he offered a thanks for being quick with the invitation, instead of making him stand in the hallway. Reported in with the commander in charge. There'll be no hunting tonight. Good. I'll remain on my best behavior to avoid drawing any sisterly ire. Yeah, don't worry too much about that red dot on your forehead. Professor smiled wide while he took a quick look around your room. It wouldn't be all that different from his own, but he regarded it as though it were. Appears that you settle in quite nicely. It's late, so I won't keep you, but I did want to discuss our plans for tomorrow. You're free to enjoy yourself in the morning without worrying about accommodating me. Should be easy to explore the town if you want. But the lodge has amenities you could also try if you're interested. There's a gym around, I believe, along the pool, and a complimentary breakfast if you're up early enough for it. As for the afternoon, evening, and night, I'd be pleased if we could spend it together. Not hoping for a morning call from yours truly. Perhaps I didn't do early mornings, or mornings in general. It was no skin off your bones to let him sleep in, especially considering that this was supposed to be a vacation. Well, it was vacation for Baxter, but the rationale held. He was always so concerned of you that it stood to reason to do the same for him. He nervously ran a hand through his hair before a semblance of his Baxter Ward patterned confidence returned to his features. Thank you for your consideration. As for what we'll do tomorrow, how would you feel about a hike? There's a lovely trail that starts directly from here. It loops up and around the forest at the back, and then returns us to where we started. It's a bit of a longer path, so we could pack a lunch with us to take on the way. I can have it ordered and delivered ahead of time. On board. Let's do it. Oh, graciously, Baxter had his heart set on that outing. Clearly, he made his day by joining the adventure. I look forward to it then. That Baxter took sleep for offering a quiet good night. There were a few hours left before you had to be in bed, so you settled in for the first night would continue to be a surreal experience. You spent peacefully, and then you were drifting into an equally gentle dream. The sun peeked through the sheer curtains, the first part of the day to greet you as you woke in a sprawling bed that wasn't your own. Nothing urgent was happening. 10 minutes, 20 minutes, probably more passed before you consider leaving the safety of the sheets. Once you managed to unearth yourself from the blankets and wake up a bit, you went through your morning routine and considered the possibilities for the time that remained. Baxter would be meeting up with you until around the afternoon. Having stomach made the decision for you, the first thing on your agenda was getting breakfast. By the time your hunger was sated, Baxter had contacted you. You wanted the hotel. And when you started approaching the hotel yesterday, there was no easy way to fully take in the sight of it. The mileage was imposing. This might very well be your only chance to see it. Straight through the premises, you managed to find cool lounges, some you couldn't go into, and a modern laundry room with machines that sang and didn't take coin. There were even some gardens outside. Moms were quick to wonder how they were maintained in the winter when you sent over the photos. Give me one moment while I go let in Sunday. Ow! And yes, Beanie did injure her hand doing that. Because Beanie is smart. Beanie is going ham on her food, too. Meanwhile, Liz negotiated the possibility of him buying her set singing washer and dryer for her apartment. By the time 11 rolled around, you phoned home to the new text from Baxter. It was as firmly worded as ever. Dan Beanie, I will be ready for a hike shortly. I hope the amenities were to your liking. Awesome, get ready too. And yeah, choices. This place has a lot going on. Wonderful. I've always enjoyed how responsive you are. I'll be ordering lunch in the interim. I thought sandwiches might suit our activities for the day. It should be easy to bring along and fine to eat cold. I would advise straying away from the paninis for that reason. Send along the menu shortly. Let me know what you prefer. As promised, Baxter attached a perfectly formatted PDF with said options, which seemed increasingly more complex the lower you scrolled down the menu. There are options for next to everything. What bread, what fillings, what cheeses, what spreads. It's meant to make you forget what was available in a category as soon as you moved from one section to another. But you hastily made your decision with seconds still ticking by and texted your order to Baxter, replied with a blushy, smiling emoji. Excellent choice. I'll be waiting in the lobby for the delivery. Then, make your way down there as soon as you're able. Take care. After signing off our last text, you tucked your phone away and hurried to your room. Good shoes were a must when it came to hikes, along with a full water bottle. The weather and time of the day being what it was, you hoped you might catch the last stretch of the cool morning air before the afternoon really set in. Hold on. Y'all ready for this crunch? I don't even know if you all heard that crunch. Damn. Very sorry then. Maybe should not have done that. Holy crap. Once you were satisfied you had everything that you need, you'd return to the front of your hotel. The lobby was cavernously vacant as ever, so it wasn't hard to find the back of a distinct head of black and white hair near the fireplace with a bag of what were potentially sandwiches. Yet you were certain it wasn't Baxter. It couldn't have been. Sure, shoes were black, the pants were dark gray, he had a gray bag too, which all aired to the side of monochromatic, but the shirt, his shirt, that man was wearing khaki. As if you'd found a cryptid in the flesh. You never thought you'd see the day where Baxter Ward was wearing a color that wasn't, well, what he was wearing any color at all. Of course, he knew it wasn't actually a stranger with the same unique hairstyle and his body type. It was hard not to joke about it. Baxter turned at the sound of your footsteps. Ah, Beanie. He grinned, jaw tense. Baxter probably would have been more comfortable trotting around the lobby in nothing more than his presumably black and white underwear. I didn't know beige was the new shade of black and white. The teasing edge to your voice did nothing to add any levity to the situation as Baxter looked, for a change, truly embarrassed by the situation. He took a deep breath, a very deep breath, with his eyes closed and his hand untouchedly tightening its grip around the bag. The answer finally came out in the same exhale. I only brought one shirt that was suitable for a hike with me on the strip. I'd been certain I wouldn't need more than that. I liked my hand brushing through his hair again as he worked to find the words. I'd like to find this among my things. Baxter grimaced. He looked at the errant shirt as if he'd been hit with a splash from a mud pile. Regrettably, I did not find anything else. This is the shirt I brought for outdoor activities. The fates would have it that I only found out when there was no time to run out and get a replacement, thus leaving me with a few remaining options: a formal button down, one of my designer tops, slick pajamas, or just the khaki shirt with both finality and defeat. Welcome back. Yes. To be honest, the bees gave me more things to do, I think. Right now, I'm just trying to get copper. And trying to get a lot of seeds. So I can make the seeds for the thing. I don't remember what the seeds are called. Prosperity. Yeah. I'm trying to get enough wheat seeds so I can make the prosperity seeds. So I can, you know, get started on those. I've been non-stop mining Ethereum though. To the point where I don't want to go in the mines anymore until I can go into the mining dimension so I don't get killed. Because Risa, I died so many times, even before you got on. I had over 12 deaths to the mines. Over 12 deaths. So I will stick to, you know, doing what I can with what I got for right now. No, though, I'm going to finish this up, and then I will be tapping out. And I'll probably go back to playing Minecraft as I eat my food. Because I do have food. And it's sad that you can't hear the crunches. It's good. Mm. Understandable. So you own it? Patrick his head emphatically. The light in his eyes betrayed his expression with some delight. That at least he found his misfortune entertaining enough to prod at. You opened Minecraft? Let's say if I stopped eating and actually, you know, did the talking, I'd probably get through this a lot quicker. And get to Minecraft quicker. I'd say if you're feeling like a nap, take a nap. Minecraft will be there. No, I suppose I must have accidentally stolen it from a roommate. I don't know who else would own a khaki button-down other than that prep. My memories of the final pack at dawn before I set out to California are hazy to say the least. I had believed at the time that I took a pale gray, sturdy cotton shirt for occasions like this. The lighting and my waning focus in the moment betrayed me. Of course, morning Baxter struck again. Sighing, he straightened the thieved attire. If he was going to be unpresentable, it should at least be decently so. The slouch bag fell against his hip as his eyes met yours. I'm sad that you keep this a secret, baby. Your secret is safe with me, VAW. The discretion is appreciated. Truly, you're one of the few I can be vulnerable with. As unhappy with his predicament as he was, there is something undeniably sweet about the fact he hurried to make it at the risk of keeping you waiting. The collar of his shirt was crumpled and parts of it were wrinkled, likely from the hasty packing after he initially discovered the horrible mistake. The letter couldn't be fixed without an iron, but at least the collar would be smoothed over. He reached out instinctively to fix it, incidentally brushing gently against the side of his neck as he straightened out the crease. Pale skin flushed with sudden warmth, pinking as your fingertips fell against the hollow of his throat. His Adam's apple bobbed. His breath hitched in his throat. His embarrassment managed to ease into laughter. Baxter covered his mouth to stifle his chuckles that echoed through the empty foyer. You tried your best to keep from cackling any more than you already did at his poor beige influence expense. Well, regardless of what color I may be wearing, we should still be able to continue with our plans. It isn't as though anyone will see me in public like this. Who will the trees tell? It really isn't as bad as you think. There's nothing wrong with being off theme sometimes. Au contraire. Tell that to my poor, suffering ego. Your suggestion's wasted. Shaking your head, you adjusted the straps of your bag on your shoulders. Okay, if you're done. Baxter gave you a world-weary glance, as if to say he was already greatly limiting how much he could have gone on about it. But you can head out. He packed away the sandwiches into a bigger, properly gray bag, truly ending his lament about the state of his attire. Once he was certain the food was not liable to be fun, Baxter suggested for you to follow him out of the hotel and onto the nearby trailhead behind the building. The path initially was paved and clearly marked. As he continued at a leisurely pace, it eventually narrowed into a larger swath of greenery, trees, and being ground. But an air is sharper than the sea breeze you were so used to. Set aside each small pine in between the lamps of liberally applied sunscreen. Thank you, Shadow. One moment. I feel like my nose is getting stuffy again. It is. I'm just... me sniffling. With a pleasant breeze and a coolness drawn from a stream. The weather was more than ideal for a hike. Tree boughs provided cover too, hiding you both from the high afternoon sun. Foliage. Beanie's brain isn't braining anymore. Rustled at your feet as your shoe kicked up the fallen turf. The path wasn't big enough for you to walk side by side, so Baxter took the front. After some prolonged silence, he spoke up. Glad that this trail matches what I saw online. It seemed like an easy hike, as it lacks steep inclines. The path ahead is clear. Yeah, it's been nice so far. And the company makes this all the more charming. Look at Mr. Mountaineer over here. Do you hike a lot? He turned his gaze up to the tree canopy, considering the question for a moment as leaves crunched underfoot, and the path slopped uphill. I just bit my fucking lip. I don't go often, but I am quite used to it if that is the question. I'm not sure if I'd consider it among my personal hobbies. I'm not adverse to it. I welcome the opportunity, in fact, when it is available. Yes, Beanie pulled a beanie. I agree. It's a wonderful thing to have something that we can enjoy together. No, I would not call myself a mountaineer proper. He chuckled, stopping in place at a partial accent. Baxter glanced over his shoulder at you and watched for any signs of difficulty with your footing. Maybe fit to impress on a day hike similar to this, but I knew some people who truly could call themselves wilderness aficionados. The types that you would see in a reality survival show. I'd wager in the Alaskan wilds fighting a bear for salmon. Paint such beautiful pictures with your words. Thank you. Now, speaking of the Murrays, the parents and their two teens, who would regularly go on backpack trips that would last days, and they'd sleep outside in the middle of the woods. Is Voice still here? Because, Voice, look at that. If no one knows, we did meet the Murrays in the, second game of this, in the demo version. We met the mother as she is our teacher in elementary school, and in high school, the father is our teacher as well. Because that's fucking hilarious. So it's actually nice. What's more, they enjoyed rappelling down cliff sides. Certainly they had safety gear, but I can't fathom willingly going to such degrees. Rather, might be more apt to say that I can't imagine surviving them. Baxter continued on about some of the Murray's exploits, and a little of his own reservations about anything else under the sun, including scuba diving. Though you had plenty to say about that between Mr. Holmes' entire business and living so close to the ocean. But it wasn't long before you decided to stop for lunch. It already been a few hours since you had breakfast. Baxter hadn't eaten anything yet for the day. There weren't picnic tables along the path, so the task fell to you to find somewhere to take a break. Happened to be the case that you saw a nice sunny spot with some nice flat rocks first. Well, we take a lunch break over here. Following your raised arm, Baxter eventually nodded in agreement. Two of you headed over to the stones and shrugged off your packs. After digging through his bag contents, he produced his 2 sandwiches and handed over yours. So, crinkling beeswax paper unwrapping announced the start of lunch. Family went to the redwoods when I was a kid. Have you been? Pax shook his head, taking another bite out of his meal as he bid you to continue. Went in an review of the Holdens and had sandwiches then too. But a bird stole Mr. Holden's, and he chased after that bird like it was his last meal. Really, man. Beanie just needed a moment so she can eat this last thing. Beanie also needs to stop shoving the entire whole thing in her mouth. No. No. Mean. Mean. Is it though? Holy crap. You two being nice over there? Amy's legs feel like mush. Amy's legs are mush. I tried telling him we had literally 1,000 ingredients to make more, but he was so sure he could get it, so he kept chasing after it. And the story trailed on longer than he intended, but Baxter was interested every step of the way. With something face, keeping up the conversation fell off the list of priorities. Baxter followed your lead and dedicated himself to his own sandwich. Real science was avoided thanks to the delightful world around you. The rustle of leaves, the bubbling of water, even a small songbird flitted by overhead before landing on a nearby bridge. Some stared directly at you and chirped. So picturesque that it belonged on a postcard. For the mundane activity of eating lunch, it was almost too much. Don't be overly serene. Thanks for letting me come with you. Of course, I'm all too happy that you accepted my invitation. Popped off a sandwich first and then wiped his fingers on a paper napkin. It had been certain to pack those. Perhaps I'm being fanciful. This feels almost dreamlike. Huh. I understood where he was coming from. Upon this mountain, your everyday life felt so far away. It was far away. You traveled for miles to be here. This time you both were far from home and in the middle of the unfamiliar. It's nature's domain, untamed in a different way than your experiences with the ocean. Yet then again, it doesn't seem to fit with what I normally do when I'm awake. Max reached out and grabbed a leaf from the ground, twirling it around with his fingers. Exactly. As you worked on finishing your own lunch, a heavy weight dropped on your shoulders. After a beat, you realized it was just Baxter leaning on you, apparently finished lunch and making himself comfortable. His eyes were closed, dark lashes especially apparent against his cheekbones, and his lips parting softly with quiet breaths. For a second, you wondered if he fell asleep again until he spoke up, as if already aware of the fact you wanted to ask. This is nice. It wasn't much of an answer, though he did crack an eye open to look up at you from his perch. Yeah, it is. It was nice again, this time burying his cheek a little closer into the hollow between your shoulder and your head. Are you tired? Baxter considered this suggestive for a second, then nodded slowly against your shoulder. If it'll let me stay a while, yes. All right. Why, thank you. You know, the forests I grew up with had different foliage. Like 60% of the plant growing here only exists in this climate. Is that true? No. Like your question, his answer was straightforward. You goggled at him with a whiplash. He grinned like the Cheshire Cat, self-satisfied and smug, his eyes glistened with amusement. I totally made that up off the top of my head. And since I know truly nothing about California wildlife, they reflect reality after all. Probably not, but I can't rule it out completely. He laughed at his nonsense. He was so blunt about it. At your mirth, his grin grew wider. He regaled you with other fake nature facts. He spoke about the California mountain here, the only North American rodent that ate a large diet of bees and was entirely made up by a man who normally dressed in monochrome. But the meal was over by that point, and he did have a trek ahead before you could return to the hotel. Baxter separated himself from your shoulder, perky as ever. Cash and scraps were thrown into the livery bag, but Baxter stuffed it into his normal bag. Leave no trace. Yeah, we can't have it hurting those 60% of plants that may or may not only be found here. With everything stowed away, the two of you slid off the rock and rejoined the path. Both you and Baxter were fully recharged from the lunch break, Continue the hike steadily, keeping a good pace. Without warning, Baxter rooted himself in the middle of the path. Oh, look at that. He turned his head and you followed his gaze. Further out on his side of the trail was the stream flowing swiftly. But you immediately knew what part of the scene caught his attention. Laying across the bank, a tree had fallen to create a natural bridge. Stepped around him to get a better vantage point. Trunk had to be 3 feet thick and covered in vibrant green moss. Leaves had long fallen from the few remaining branches. Baxter's bright eyes stayed on it, and he grinned all the while. 1 minute, please. I need to walk across that. It's too perfectly to simply pass on by. Took a large step and promptly left the path. A twig snapped. Wait, what? Oh my god, he laughed at his plan. You shouldn't leave the trail. Yes, I want to do that too. Followed after him. He stared in disbelief. Let's follow. Walking up the path made you initially glad that you weren't wearing flip-flops today. They were brush blocking the way everywhere. Chose to mimic most of Baxter's movement. Despite his excitement, he still paid attention to where he put his feet. He dodged what could have been poison ivy and then had to limbo under a low-hanging branch between a couple of saplings. Baxter snagged his shirt on a thorn. Hold on. Carefully unhooked the fabric and saved it from tearing. Baxter craned his neck to inspect the shirt, visibly relieved that it was undamaged. I'm glad you decided to come with me on this fortuitous adventure. Finally, he skipped over some stones and then squeezed himself between a group of thick bushes. His efforts were surprisingly graceful. Climbed on the rocks behind him and took a moment to access the bushes yourself. Going all the way around would be a hassle. There was a small gap under one of the bushes, but unless you were prepared to crawl, you didn't think you'd fit. Followed Baxter's path, lightly bending a few branches out of your way, got through without any scratches. Now through the gauntlet, catching up with Baxter was easy. This close to the stream bank, it was mostly more stones and short grasses. Baxter solidly placed a foot on the trunk, suspended over it, adjusted his weight, then rocked his heel to shake the bridge. Tree gave no sign of giving under pressure. No matter what he did, it wasn't budging. Excellent. The safety check complete, he gingerly lifted his other foot and stood fully on the cloud's trunk. Even if it was stuck, the wood had to be slicked. Wet and round weren't an ideal combination. Your forehead twinkled. Baxter showed no concern for that and walked further along an inch at a time till he was above the water. One wrong move and he'd be in that river. You carefully climbed on. First you sat down, then pulled up your feet. The damp bark was unpleasant, especially in your knees as you first crouched. However, when you stood up, the tree stayed firm. You breathed a sigh of relief. He went across the stream with his arms out, and light steps heel, toe, heel, toe. It was almost like he was floating on air, his movement smooth and assured. You weren't having trouble either. Why not? You showed me along after Baxter with confidence. The tree was more scared of you than you were of it. The moss grew thicker over the trunk. It squished under your shoe. However, it was firmly attached, and your foot never slipped. As long as you didn't falter, you'd keep your balance. The lawn was large enough that even with how round it was, you had plenty of room. When you reached the halfway point, directly over the heart of the stream, Baxter paused. Sorry to block the path. Can we take a moment here? Sure. He was pivoting his feet so he'd face the water. He copied him and breathed in the beauty. Why are you sad? Oh my fucking god. Y'all are cruel and mean for those. Together you sat on top of fallen trees as the stream flowed right underneath. The water was clean. Tiny fish darted in and out of hiding places. It's its own little universe tucked away at the top of a mountain. Your hand on Baxter's took hold of him and he squeezed you back. Gave him a pick on the cheek. Why not? You leaned closer to him, careful of both your positions on the tree bridge. Wouldn't do to smooch your boyfriend off a tree. Much to his delight, you gently gave him a peck on his cheek. He then inched closer to you and kissed you on the nose. Both of you beamed at each other. Quite grateful for my impeccable balance in cases like this. Are you really going to tell me that stuff like this happens to you regularly? I'm not going to tell you anything other than, well, you'd be surprised. Flash of mischief-filled grin. At this point, I'm learning to accept whatever from you. It's easier that way. Good. He started asking for more details, but doubted that he'd elaborate. Suddenly there was a splash in the stream below. A ripple spread across the water. The cause of it remained a mystery. There was nothing to be seen. Baxter restarted his attention to the log. He tapped on the trunk, kicking off a loose remnant of bark. We don't actually need to go all the way across. Nothing particularly enthralling is over there. I've enjoyed our little tries very much, but I believe this is the curtain call. All right. You led the charge off of the tree, Baxter's hand warm in yours. You both kept each other grounded until you actually reached the ground. That was magical. It truly was fantastical. Remember how at lunch I mentioned that this all reminded me of a dream? Up above the rushing water, standing in a sunbeam deep in the woods, I cannot imagine a more picturesque scene. Back to the trail? You nodded and started squeezing your way past the vegetation in your way. Baxter followed you for a change. Finally, the path was under your feet. It sure was faster than trekking directly through the overgrowth. On we go. As Drake resumed, Baxter dropped the attitude set out. Then, his entire trip, he had seemed different, more lighthearted. Usually, when he was in playful mood, it was more teasing. He was still very controlled, but out here now, it wasn't the same. Maybe because he was in the middle of nowhere, he felt extra free, or maybe it was because he'd already broken character with his unintentionally stolen shirt. Or, and this was the strangest possibility he considered, maybe it was entirely normal for him to act like this and he didn't know. Gradually it grew darker and darker. Less light made it through the canopy of leaves above you. The sun slipped behind the surrounding mountains. It was well into evening when you caught sight of the hotel. How we arrived. Honestly, I'm having many regrets. Some light and jokey, but there is something boldly truthful to his words. To reserve the rooms for much longer, everything is ending much too soon for my taste. He rubbed a hand through his hair, exhaustedly sweeping it back into place. But at this point, there's no helping it. Live and learn, Baxter. He returned to the warm lights of the lobby. The plush red carpet, squished in a strangely decadent way compared to how gross you felt from troping around the woods all day. Baxter halted you mid-stride with a question. What are your plans for now? He hadn't thought that far, but Baxter didn't pause long enough for you to answer. If you're willing, we could eat dinner together. For example, I've heard the room service here is divine. We could also go somewhere else, but I'd require a few minutes to change. Don't mind hiding away from public with you. You discovered my evil plan. Sighed dramatically as you chuckled at his fake shade. You expected you figured me out. My true desire is to return to the room, relaxing rather than cleaning up at this hour of the night. No worries, I'm not judging. Appreciate it. Now, once we order food, then tonight will be perfect. Perhaps I'll have a salad. As far as not because we have been surrounded by leaves all day. Your stomach gurgled at the mention of food. The new plan was just in time, and he headed straight up to Baxter's room. He led the way to his suite like the hotel was the back of his hand. There was a simple layout. But under his confident guidance, he reached the destination. He dropped your bags on the floor. Carpet muffled the thump. Baxter spread his now free arms widely to welcome you in. Please take a seat wherever you'd like. Baxter moved towards the nightstand and scrunched up a pamphlet on hotel services. Sat down on the side table. Baxter looked through the booklet until he spied the menu. Found it. Joined you around the table and placed the menu down so both of you could read it. And he glanced at those options for classic comfort foods. It matched the cabin in the woods aesthetic, but that the hotel was going for. However, it also had briefly more high-end options to cater to a certain set of its clientele. It could be understated how weird the concept of getting lobster in a hotel was. All entrees came with seasonal veggies and a homemade roll. In addition, you could also pick a side of mashed potato, fries, French onion soup, or a salad. Baxter was not as decisive as usual. You weren't sure if that meant he liked the options or was struggling to find something he actually wanted. So the options for yourself and decided on let's go with steak. As for the side you picked your favorite off the list. Let's go with fries. Can't go wrong with fries. There's nothing standing out on the menu for me, but that makes it easy. I'll get the risotto on a side salad. So you're getting your bowl of leaves after all. I am indeed. Baxter confirmed your order again, as well as repeating his own, before swanning over to the room bed. He dialed room service and placed the order promptly. Yes, thank you. Goodbye. He hung up the call and sat down in the corner of the bed. He tapped his fingers on his legs. All that was left was to wait. He decided to spend that time cooling down from the hike and clean up a bit. Max cranked up the AC and washed his face with a damp towel. Collected a bucket of ice from the hallway ice machine, treated yourself to some crisp water. About 30 minutes after the order was put in, a knock rattled at the door. Baxter volunteered to get it. Hello. Opened the door and let in a waiting staff member. The employee rolled in a cart carrying literal silver platters. Set out the food on the table for you. Please enjoy your dinner. Let us know if you need anything else. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Probably you're impressed by the fanciness of the presentation. Staff member made their farewells, leaving you to your meal. You reconvene around the table once more. This food comes from the restaurant in the hotel. It's not a small operation preparing it, oh? Chatting and chewing happens in turns. The topic inevitably comes to your preference for food. Everyone always talks about fries and ice cream going together well, but honestly, they were missing out on the obvious. Fries and whipped cream are even better. It's still the sweet and salty combination, but you don't have to deal with the cold fries. That was even the first strange food he'd brought up to the conversation. Start off with something in a my nose is getting stuffy, and I don't know why. And then slip in an oddity to watch your reaction. How many were real and how much fell into the realm of 60% unique plants, i.e., complete and utter nonsense. You ever thought of trying fries with pies? You don't think I'm being serious. No, you didn't think he was serious. Takes a lot more to find good flavor combinations than rhyming. If it worked like that, then nothing would ever go well with oranges. Sure, Baxter. After many food admissions that made Baxter either the king of weird taste buds or reigning jester, dinner came to an end. When you glanced at the clock, you found that it was later than you ever would have guessed. It's been a long day. Sitting back in your chair, you stretched your arms up. Your legs were feeling the effects of trapezing uphill for miles. Now bubbled up when your phone rang. Who'd be calling you at this time? You pulled out your phone to check if there was anything that mattered or a spam call. Liz's name showed up on the screen. Right, of course your sister wouldn't wait any longer for the mandatory check-in. You were late. Alicia jumped straight to the police. Don't turn to that if you like. I can give you privacy. No, it's my sister. You don't have to go anywhere. Tap the screen to answer the call. Put it on speaker. That way both of you could say hello. Sup, Liz? Surprise check-in, Beanie. Are you still alive? Did that Victorian-era emo man give you any trouble? Victorian-era emo men don't exist. Your deadpan denial sparked a giggle from Liz. Baxter was already leaning on the table with his elbows propped up on the counter. Now he lazily rested his chin on one of his fists. Oh, that's certainly a unique description. I can't say I've ever heard the likes of it before. Oh. She paused. Liz was now aware that where she said that in front of the so-called Victorian-era emo man. I stand by it. Hello, T. Baxter. I'm making sure that everything is well with my little sister, you understand? I do completely. Fine, so good. What are you doing? We just had room service for dinner. She's lucky I had to make my own dinner like a peasant. Sucks for you. Brat, you have room service once, and now you're lording it over me. He had her click her tongue disapprovingly. Where did my sweet baby sister go? On vacation without any peasants. Two of you shot out a few more snips at each other, never meant to strike anywhere lethal. It was all in good fun. Baxter watched with increasing entertainment. Anyways, clearly you're still breathing, so I'll let you go. It'd be discourteous to keep you from your suitor any longer. She spoke in a mock formal tone, poking at Baxter. He playfully responded, How gracious of you, Miss Last. You're indeed a gentlewoman. See you tomorrow, sis. Yeah, see you too. Yes, take care. Ellen, make sure you take care of her. My nose. Give me one moment, I'm gonna blow it. Hopefully that helped. On that slightly threatening note, Liz hung up. Baxter's lips twitched upwards. Your family is charmingly protective. I realize that more and more every day. They're the best. That makes me happy to hear. Swords lingered. There is more happening there than an offhanded statement. I am nearly a stranger, and I cannot deny that I'm imposing a great deal on your free hours. It's good to be cautious. Truly, I do like your family, at least as much as I can from the little we've contracted. Speaking of, he lifted his head and his hand fell under his chin and said, furrowed his brow. General, I would never dare to be this presumptuous, but I cannot deny that I am deeply curious about you as a person. So, if I'll venture to ask if you'd be willing to share more about your family history? Oh, it made sense. Your family wasn't a mother and father who had children born to them. You knew that much. There are more ways than one that you all could have come together. You didn't remember ever explaining anything to him. That's fine, don't mind talking about it. You at least give him the highlights. Baxter humored many of your questions about him. Getting to know each other better was a two-way street. I'm adopted. Liz is too. We're from different places, and we're adopted at different times. We're even born in the same country. So we didn't even met each other at all. But we both were really young. We spent almost our entire lives together. I see. Well, it's fantastic how you made your own beautiful family. Thanks, Baxter. His words made you feel warm inside. You respected how easily you took him. Made you wonder about his family situation. He had been rather close-mouthed about it so far, and again the two-way street analogy came to mind. You and your parents blood related? Ah, yes, we certainly are. His voice took on a certain amused bent. His lips stretched thin. My parents might have well been through with me many times over if I wasn't their own flesh and blood. Or you could ask what he meant by that, he chuckled. Side note, that is me being dramatic. Their family and I'm their son. This is what matters at the end of the day, blood related or not. Okay, it's nice your parents care about you. He wouldn't voice a flicker of worry. I'm thankful for that as well. Now, if I wasn't the boy they raised together in any capacity, then there would be problems. Had some more and brought his fingers to his lips. That topic was over. Well, he pulled out the collar of his roommate's shirt, gaze searched out the room's ticking clock. It has been a wonderful, delightful day. But I should not linger forever. There's much to do tomorrow. Good night, Beanie. Said in a slight wave, he grabbed his bag to go. You wondered how long it would take for him to remember whose room this was. Baxter left without another word. The door swung shut behind him. He sunk lower in your chair, getting comfortable as he waited for his inevitable return. At any moment now, he'd come tiptoeing back. Almost as if on cue, the door slammed open. Baxter came through it, walking stiltedly with the most forced smile possible. This one's my room. The other is yours. Your laughter burst like a dam, flooding his room. Ah, you were aware. Baxter's voice was polite, but laced with embarrassment. He had been gone long enough that you wondered if he'd actually tried to use his key on your room and failed. Rather than pushing him any further, you got to your feet. With you moving to leave, Baxter found his shoes very interesting. I hope you get some sleep. Baxter hesitated to reply, while sensing that he would answer. He just needed a little more time to choose the right words. Well, I do intend to sleep, but in truth, I don't expect I'll be any soon. I'll be packing after you take your leave, and after that, who knows? That's a lot of words to build a mystery. What do you mean? Baxter chuckled and tapped his foot. I said, who knows, didn't I? He crossed your arms unimpressed. His snorted at you. It was difficult keeping a straight face. He better explain soon. Okay, that's not exactly correct. I'll admit I know myself very well. I also am aware of a drinking station in the lobby that is open at every hour. There's also a fire that stays lit all throughout the night as well. I'm expecting that instead of being in bed like a proper young man, I'll end up in the lobby with a cup of tea. Now that's an idea. While you're admittedly worn out, getting drinks sounded like the perfect activity to finish out the day. Oh? His eyes narrowed. He narrowed his eyes, and his smile curved up more. Am I the bad influence here, or are we enablers to one another? Enablers. Yes, I thought so. Well, we haven't gone off the rails yet, so I believe we should be fine. His amusement was tangible, and you were already looking forward to the next outing. I'll text you when I've made it to the lobby. His eyes twinkled with familiar mischief. You'd keep your phone close. Good night, Beanie, for now. That you just as the handle left. You made it to your room, identical room, conveniently right next door. The door stipple clicked shut behind you, and you flicked on the lights. Despite the new illumination, the suite was not as bright as Baxter's room. How was Baxter's room so lively while yours was this? You sat in your cold bed inside. The layer carpet was spread beneath your feet. The walls were matched. The same pictures were attached to the wall. Physically, there wasn't a difference. The change was the fact that now you were by yourself. After spending all day with Baxter's grin, you were lonely in its absence. But at least that wouldn't last long. You'd see Baxter again soon, one way or another. The last and only full day of your mini vacation was drawing to a close, and the warm night pressed black and silent against the window panes. You tucked yourself into bed for a break, but left all the room lights on. You didn't want to fall asleep yet. Naturally, you idled the minutes away by counting the planks in the ceiling. Eventually, there came the jingling of a text arriving. Locking your phone, you saw that Baxter sent you a message. It was short and to the point. I'm downstairs. Finally finished his packing. There was no need to respond. He knew you were coming. He looked out from under the covers and hopped off the bed, eager for the secret meeting. Crept into the hall, which was brightly lit, although all the other patrons were holed up in the rooms for the night. No staff remaining at the front desk. It was dead quiet and still. As you padded your way downstairs, the omnipresent silence seemed like it was something you couldn't touch. A thin blanket swaddling you, your footsteps and breathing felt muffled. In spite of that, the air was fairly cold. The grand foyer had high ceilings and the I'm hearing peaches. That's what I'm hearing. I was like, what? No, that's not peaches. I'm guessing that's patches. Mezzanine floors and wide open space invited permanent draft. The central fireplace might come across initially pointless in the middle of summer in California, but that wasn't giving it its due. Now blazing bravely against the chill, it was a welcome beacon of comfort. Surrounding the hearth was a raised stone platform. There you could see a lone seated figure silhouetted against the flames. It was Baxter, warming himself by the fire. Paper cup was clutched in his hands, a pale film of steam rising from it. He had changed into his pajamas, still sporting that khaki interlooper. I also counted on nobody else being around to see the horror that late. The dull thud of feet on carpeted floor heralded your approach. His portrait smoothly transitioned from a profile of a three-quarter view, sized my ears, and you grinned. Beanie, glad you could make it. Me too, those endless stairs almost had me beat. Wicked such stairs, aren't they? You were lucky to arrive in one piece. Rolling the thin cup slowly between his palms, Baxter jerked his head over to one side, drawing your attention to a long table up against the far wall. The drink station is over there, if you care to partake. A beverage of some kind might be just the thing to top off our late night rendezvous. He nodded. You could use a drink. After crossing the lobby, he stood in front of the refreshment bar. It was covered in a thick tablecloth-like color of fresh snow, and a neat arrangement of clean crockery had been laid out on top. There were a couple of jugs of hot water and a wide selection of different drink packets, individual tea bags. Next to those, 2 more urns of pre-made coffee had been labeled regular and decaf. The carafe off to one side seemed to house spiced apple cider. Was completed with 3 smaller silvery ones, each getting a different kind of milk. They weren't stingy on the options, that was for sure. You decided to go for chamomile tea. Picked up a cup, tore open the satchel, and let hot water run over it. Liquid turned a pale yellow, and the sweet, earthy smell of chamomile wafted up lazily upward. Snapped on a lid and ambled over to the fireplace again. Baxter raising his drink to tap it gently against yours. Welcome back. What's your poison? I went for a bracing cup of peppermint tea myself. I got chamomile tea. Delightful. A momentary flash of realization across his face, and then he let out a huff of amusement. Appears we find ourselves out to drinks yet again, Beanie. I must apologize for the lack of originality. I promise I do other things in my spare time, occasionally. I don't know, Baxter, twice a coincidence, but 3 times? That's a pattern. Believe most teams make it a pattern to drink liquids regularly. You sort it quietly into your cup. Maybe I'll have to look into it. Baxter scooted over on his perch, patting the stonework with his free hand to indicate that you should take a seat beside him. Popped yourself in front of the fire, relishing the cozy glow on your skin and the heated slabs beneath you. Baxter was staring absently into the grate. As you sat there with him, enveloped in the warmth of the fireplace and the closeness of his presence, you felt comfortable. Baxter slowly sipped his tea and then set his cup down next to him. I must agree with you from before when you said that it doesn't feel summery in this place. Give me one moment. Beanie is sick. Beanie hates this so much right now. Especially right now, curled up in front of a fire, cradling a cup of something hot. Something in mind of long autumn nights when the days are beginning to waste away to nothing. This decor too, the wood, the stone, the grandeur. I might have believed myself to be back in my childhood home in Oregon. Really? He lifted a leg up onto the edge and tucked his knee under his chin. Still focused on the burning light, his expression was distant, wistful. Yes, that's one of the reasons I chose this hotel, as a matter of fact. I never lived in a building on this scale. The effect is similar. You could say that I was raised in a big, cool house, cool in the sense of impressive rather than underheated. That was what my friends used to call it. I loved it when they would come and visit. There was scarcely anything better. They never got over their sense of awe, and I ate it up. I like to think myself special in those days. To be young and innocent. Nature smiled until from that was more familiar, a great little smile. How strange. Usually I find indulging in nostalgia to be an unpleasant endeavor, but here now it's easy and it's nice. Plus, it's because for once I can share my thoughts with another person, rather than ruminating on the past by myself. So I speak acquaintance. Askance. I can't. Beanie's brain can't brain anymore. Viewers, before returning once more to the flames. Restfully against him, why not? Leaned into it and gave a sigh of pleasure. It made him happy. It hasn't been easy to find anyone to reminisce with, now for a while, but then again, I only developed sentimentality once I'd gone off to college. I was too young or proud for that sort of matter before then. There wasn't anything in my life to harbor such sentiment for. Suppose leaving was this catalyst, isn't it always? But once that part of my mind had developed, there wasn't anyone around to share the emotions with. My classmates and I, we don't have that kind of relationship. This may be a complete shock to you, but I've been told that I can come across a bit too forward. I know, it can be hard to believe. Your face cracked into a grin. Understatement of the year, anybody? I tend to speak up with people so we can connect. It almost never works out that way, though. I've had to come to terms with the fact that I don't possess a knack for making friends. It was obnoxiously easy when I was a child, especially due to the aforementioned big, cool house. But now I keep finding myself at a loss for how to do it. With a hit or miss endeavor, the vast majority of the time I come up with a miss. Only lately it's been different, incredibly different. I almost worry my luck won't last. His voice had dropped to a low murmur, barely audible over the crackling wood in the grate. It will all be over soon. It's an echo of what he said after a hike this afternoon. This time it went one small step further. I wish I could stay. His eyes were closed now, and a shallow crease had appeared in his forehead. He understood that he was talking about more than your short stint in this hotel. Even once it's over, there's things to look forward to. I suppose so. Lapsed into silence once more, becoming engrossed in his own thoughts. Found that you were doing the same. Disparate emotions drifting in and out of clarity. Both lingered a while longer, but your cups had been emptied and the fire was getting low back to her side. Fortunately, we best call it quits here. We can't stave off the morning by avoiding sleep altogether. That sucks, but it's true. Got up from the fireplace in unison. At some point, you started holding hands, though you couldn't remember when. Climbed the stairs and walked down the hall in companionable quiet, pausing in front of the doors to your side-by-side rooms. Baxter cleared his throat, letting his hand fall from yours. Thank you once again for your company, Beanie. It's been an enjoyable evening. Until tomorrow, then. His back was to you as he reached into his rear pocket, fetching his key card. Good night, Baxter. You unlocked the door to your room, stepped inside. Heading straight for bed. Collapsed into it, your mind starting to lose its grip on consciousness the second you hit the mattress. The gray greeted you suddenly and without warning, sunshine streaming in through the windows. The curtains simply stood there and let it happen. You began to draw them shut. The end to your miniature holiday had come. You promptly got out of bed and began to pack, following your usual routine as best you could. You didn't end up seeing Baxter again until after 11 o'clock. As promised, he'd taken a lion after burning the midnight oil and had to make a last mad dash in order to check out at noon. Luckily, he managed the departure without so much of an issue. Two of you loaded up the car and set off for home. Home, for one of you at least. While you were returning to your normal life, Baxter was inside exchanging one kind of vacation for another. Maybe you thought, watching California landscape drift past the window, Baxter was leaving his own version of normal behind right now. Mountainside Lodge had been home away from home for him. Simulacrum of his life in Oregon, much more familiar than a sleek condo by the sea. Continue to reflect on this as the road rolled out before you. Occasionally you would swap comments with Baxter on random subjects, at other times retreating into the privacy of your own head. Rapidly, your time up on the mountain was fading into memory. You're lucky you decided to have seen a small piece of Baxter. He entrusted to you a shard of himself, a tiny spark of light shining from somewhere deep inside. You understood him better, even if only a fraction. That was probably the only glimpse into the real life of Baxter Ward that you get. My freaking nose is getting on my last nerve. Alrighty. On that note, we are ending it. I'm gonna send y'all to Mad Dog. He's currently playing Cairo. Cryo. I don't know if that actually said itself properly or not, but Cryo. I hope you guys enjoyed. I'm gonna go finish my food and go play some Minecraft. Right. See y'all tomorrow.